Welcome back to Behind the Box. Today we're going to be discussing a prototype that was sent to us by Board Game Exposure called The Primary. Now, full disclosure, we haven't paid for this game, but that won't impact the quality of our review.
So The Primary is a competitive game for 1 to 6 players. Each of you will be playing as candidates who are arranging your presidential primary election campaigns. You'll do this by visiting different regions across the United States, gaining influence in those areas, and trying to get the most votes and getting the most delegates. So it's kind of a light area control game and a programming game. So each round, there's 12 different rounds, voting will occur in a specific region. You want to have the most influence in that region. To get influence, you have to play your cards face down. You choose 4 of your action cards. Everyone has the same hand of 14 cards. And then going around the table, one at a time, you reveal your cards from left to right. You then enact those cards, and it'll be things like gaining influence, placing influence, or moving around the country. There'll also be a news deck, which is effectively the events deck, where different changes will happen and different events will happen each round.
I actually really like the news deck. That's one of my favorite parts of the game.
Yeah.
Because it just adds that bit of character to each round. So it's a little different than last round because something's changed.
Nice bit of variety.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like the programming aspect because it's that great little mental game that you've got with your opponent. You're thinking not only what cards should I play, what are they going to play, but also I need to decide on the order of these cards because once I lay it out, that's not changing. That's how I'm going to play. So you need to make sure that you've got it in the right order so you can be flexible and react to what your opponent's going to be doing.
Yeah, it's a really nice part of the strategy because you don't just play yours 1, 2, 3, 4. You play your one, then the next person plays their first one, and you go around the table like that. Then you do your second, then it continues. So you need to kind of plan ahead. And kind of the third and fourth card you play, you need to almost assume what other people are going to do so you can react to it without really reacting. It's more like a proactive reaction. So that's a really cool part of the game. Good strategy. There's general cards like fundraising, so you just get more influence, or using transportation like a bus or a plane to move around the country. But there's also a card where if you play the most of them in your 4 cards, you get a lot of influence. It's a big just boon of points for influence. And that's a really cool part of the mind game because you have to have the most. So if you don't play any and only one person plays 1, they'll get a lot of stuff for a very small sort of risk that they've put into it. But then if someone's played 2 and you play 3, you're going to have spent 3/4 of your action cards this round trying to get the most. And it might pay off for you, but you also need to be prepared for, okay, is this a round that I can afford to not do anything?
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll pay off on the cheap, other times it won't. It's a good risk reward that exists in the game. And I really like that aspect of it. It is a good strategy and mind game part of the game.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And it does make for a very interesting gameplay.
Yeah, it does. I do have sort of an issue with the way influence works in the game. It's quite an abstract game already.
Yeah.
Even though you've got these cards that are fundraising, it kind of all just comes down to small cubes. And even the event deck, it comes down to just these cubes of influence. Once you've placed influence into a region, it stays there. And so when the round comes, when that region's going to vote, whoever has the most influence in that region will score those points. After that round, those influence cubes just stay in there. They don't move. You can't move them. Now, each candidate does have their own unique power. And I was lucky that I got a candidate that's able to move influence cubes around. Lindsay didn't get that. And so I had just a huge wealth of influence cubes.
Yeah, it was very powerful because he could be more flexible than I could.
I could be more aggressive.
Yeah.
Whereas you were kind of stuck.
Yeah.
But that was like a pretty big major issue for me. I think gameplay wise, it's just not very fun to have that round, move past it, and then everything you've invested into it is just worthless now. It's just dead resources. It's kind of a bummer when you're playing it.
Thematically, like if you think about a presidential campaign, you don't want to show up in Ohio and be all like, yeah, I love Ohio. It's my home state. You guys are the best. And then you go to Florida and it's like, forget Ohio. Take all the influence back.
Yeah, I understand that, but to me, the rest of the game isn't thematic enough to warrant that. And I look at it more as from a gameplay side. So it's not fun to invest so much and potentially not get anything from it, and then all those resources are gone.
That's kind of the feeling that I had the whole game, because the candidate that I chose just didn't.
Yeah, it didn't.
My well was always dry. I had no influence.
Yeah, well, I was thinking when we played it. We did a 2-player game, and one of the games we did, you had just basically you were treading water the whole time, and I had so much influence that I could kind of do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Within the confines of the cards, and so I won, but you didn't enjoy doing it that way because the character I got just was objectively better than your one.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a shame.
Moving into final thoughts, I guess I'll share mine.
Yeah.
So I didn't think that I would like this game very much. So before we started playing, I was thinking of it as how can this be used perhaps in a classroom as a tool, maybe in a civics class to engage students, get them playing a game and learning about the election process. So I kept looking at it and trying to see if that would work at all, but no, it's a bit too abstract to be used as a tool in a classroom. When I was really interested in the news deck and what that could offer thematically, I was hoping that maybe there would be something like, big oil spill and it's got to change your campaign. You have to do all these different things. No, it really does come down to like things are a little bit more expensive this round, or it's not.
It's a bit more linear.
I know. Yeah, it's funny because the theme it doesn't connect with me. I'm not a big fan of American politics, but I actually felt myself wanting more of it here. If you're gonna go for it, just go for it.
Yeah, that's kind of a similar thought for me. Is like I said, it's kind of a light worker placement game and a light programming game. If I want one of those two games, there's meatier games out there.
Yeah.
Like you said, the news deck could have been this thing that really shakes up how you run your campaign. If you choose a platform to run on, but then the news changes and you've got to adapt. But it doesn't give you that. It is just
cubes.
Yeah, it's just cubes. Stuff just costs a little bit more this round.
Yeah.
Or it's cheaper. Now, there are exceptions, obviously, but in our experience, that was the majority of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed playing it. I had fun. It was a nice, simple game. It's pretty quick. It's quite light. It's easy to learn. But I don't think I would want to play it again, to be honest. I think I've seen everything it has to offer. And, yeah, similar, the subject matter doesn't appeal to me. I will say, as a positive to the subject, the candidates are split pretty evenly between men and women of a bunch of different diversities. And there's no one party. It's almost like you all play as an independent person.
Yeah.
It's not specifically Republican versus Democrat. So that's kind of
that's
nice.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, that's just our thoughts on the game. I enjoyed it, Lindsay less so. If you want to learn more about the game yourself, I will leave links in the description so you can read up further information on the game, as well as our usual links to Board Game Exposure and our own social media, so check those out as well. But yeah, until the next one, we'll see you soon. Bye. A competitive game. That was like, when cats look at you and they slowly slide something off the edge of a table. That's what you just did. You were staring at me and you just... Ba-da-dunk.